started this show a long time ago, trying to basically record history from other people, hear their stories, let them talk about their stories. I did a lot of interviews over the past several months, almost to a year, and I've really enjoyed it. I've met a lot of awesome people. Love everything about it. I've kind of slowed down on the interviews a little bit just because it's the summer months, time is busy. I am working on some things that I will hopefully be sharing with you all a little bit later. So now I'm just kind of doing these monologue episodes, and these are things that I think are important, things that we need to talk about, and I'm hoping that you find them helpful as well. There's a lot going on, and I a little bit of background. I don't necessarily prepare. I don't write a script. I don't write notes. I really just speak from the heart. I speak from my brain of things that are popping up. Really, over the last 24, 48 hours, there's been a lot of things that have been going on. We've had the United States has sent B 2 bombers into Iran to blow up bunkers believed to be housing nuclear materials, possibly nuclear weapons. That was, in my opinion, an act made to help protect the United States, help protect Israel, protect our allies, our interests, that sort of thing. I'm not very political, or at least I don't try to get political on this show. That may change down the road. Who knows? If it does, I'll create a whole different show. I don't know. So we had that situation unfold. Then, if you're ever on TikTok, there is an individual, a lady, who created a video, and I think she thought she was going to get a whole bunch of support from others similar to her, and it kind of backfired. If I can figure out how to throw that video in here, I will. Otherwise, you can go on TikTok and you can find it on there. But this lady, she's a nurse, and she made a video talking about an interaction that she had with EMS. And in that video, she mentions that she flexed her nursing license and basically acted like she was Billy Badass towards these medics. It didn't go well for her. It didn't go well. So I created a video response, which it didn't go viral because, in my opinion, viral would mean hundreds of thousands of views, hundreds, if not thousands of comments, things like that. But it did blow up for what normally happens on my TikTok page. I've actually considered starting a whole new TikTok just to basically reset that algorithm. I got a lot of good comments. There was a lot of great conversation between nurses and paramedics. I got involved in as many as I could. The comments are still coming in. But there's some things that I want to point out based off of those comments, based off of my past interactions with people like that. And I think a lot of you will find that you've been in similar situations. So I've had situations before where I've had a nurse or a doctor come up on my scene. Now, as I've mentioned before, I am no longer in the field. Still have my EMT certification, but I gave up on the paramedic several years ago. I obviously still have my fire certs because those do not expire, but I'm not active in the field anymore for many different reasons. I've had situations where nurses or doctors would show up on a scene and they would start barking orders. Obviously, that didn't happen all the time. There were a lot of situations where a nurse would come on scene and she would ask if she could help in any way. And typically, we would give the same response of, we're okay, we're good, we've got this under control. Definitely appreciate your willingness to assist. And that would be it. They would walk away, they would thank us, and they'd move on with their lives, and so would we. But every once in a while, we would have that nurse that would come on scene and either question what it is that we were doing or demand that we treat the patient a different way. We would also have doctors that would try to do that. And it never failed. That doctor would come on site and turns out that they're a dentist and they're trying to teach us how to do CPR. It's really interesting. In fact, my wife and I had a situation one time. We were on a flight to our honeymoon, and on this flight, I don't remember if we were on the way there or on the way back, but they came across the PA system, the flight crew did, asking if there was a doctor, nurse, or paramedic on this flight. And my wife and I stood up. We started heading that direction. And when we got to where the patient was, the flight crew stopped us and they said, "Oh, it's okay. We've got a doctor here." I was like, "Okay, what are they a doctor in? What's going on?" The patient was unconscious. The doctor was a dentist. This isn't a jab against people that are dentists, but it's one of those situations where you need to understand that if you've got somebody, just because they're a doctor doesn't necessarily mean they know medicine. I mean, you can look at that with people who get PhDs. Technically, their title is a doctor after they have received their doctorate diploma, right? That doesn't mean they know medicine. Dentists, yeah, I'm sure they do know medicine, but they don't necessarily study it like true doctors, like trauma surgeons, like hospitalists, even physicians, private physician groups, things like that. Or even as paramedics and EMTs, we do this job every single day. We see the sickest of the sick people on a daily basis. So just because you're a doctor at something doesn't necessarily mean you know what you're doing. But some people like to have that flex. Some people like to be able to throw things around and say, look how great I am. That's fine. Whatever. So this whole video thing kind of obviously stirred the pot on TikTok. And I made some of my comments about, yeah, I understand that what she did was wrong. Obviously treated those medics like complete garbage and is obviously still trying to treat all other medics as complete garbage. Totally backfired on her. She ended up deleting the video. I think she turned her comments off first and then deleted the video. But like anything online, once you put it on the internet, it's never, and you try to get rid of it, it's never truly gone. And I think she's finding that out with AFO. So with all of that, I made my comments about how nurses, paramedics, EMTs, doctors, we all have the same goal. We all have the same mission, and we should all be working together. And at the end of the day, it's better to just try to be the bigger person when you run into a situation like that. It's super easy to get sucked into somebody's negative mindset. It's super easy to have somebody come in and start throwing their weight around like they are king or queen bee. And then for you to get sucked into it, and now you're going to start acting the same way, and egos get involved in the whole nine yards. The problem is that's not good for anybody. It's not good for you, not good for your mental health. It's not good for that person or their mental health. And it's certainly not doing any good for the patient that you're trying to take care of. It's our goal. Our goal is to take care of that patient. If that's not your goal, you're in the wrong field. Flat out, plain and simple. Your goal should be to take care of that patient. I don't know what else to tell you. And it ruffled a lot of feathers when I said that. I got comments from people saying things like, I don't want to be the bigger person because that just invites people to push me around. I got one person that tried to say, when I mentioned being the bigger person, they tried to say that I was insinuating to just ignore it and hopefully it stops. And that's not at all what I'm saying. I don't think you should ignore bad behavior. I don't think you should do the quote ignore and hope that it stops. I don't believe in that. I think if somebody is treating you like crap, you need to call them out on it and you need to have a conversation. But I also don't believe that during that conversation that you need to match anger for anger and get into this contest of who can provide the best insult against the other person. I don't see any benefit in that whatsoever. And you're not even really going to feel much better afterwards. I'll give you a perfect example. One of my last calls working in the city EMS system. It was, and I've shared this story before, it was about five kids. I say kids, they were probably late teens in their 20s, maybe even mid 20s. They were running from the cops after they brutally assaulted one of the kids' girlfriends. I don't know the reason. I just know they were running from police. And they were doing probably well over 100 miles an hour. And they crossed an intersection, and so they were traveling east, and I'm sorry, they were traveling west. And the intersection that runs north and south has a rather huge crown in the center of that road. And when they went over it, they went airborne, and they went headfirst into a tree. Now you can use your imagination, think of the worst possible outcome, and that's what happened. As a result of that, part of the motor of that vehicle traveled about 50 feet, 25 to 50 feet, and clipped a gas meter and was causing the gas meter to blow and hiss. And I was first on scene along with my partner, and second was a rookie police officer and his sergeant. And as we're trying to basically size up the scene and seeing what is going on to try to figure out what additional resources we need, try to pass that information along to figure out, do we need to start evacuating homes? Because we didn't know the extent of it. Mind you, we know this gas meter is blowing and hissing, but we don't want to go near it, right? Like, that's common sense. Well, the rookie officer came up to me and wanted to start barking orders and start telling me what I needed to do with my truck and what I needed to do on the scene and yada, yada, yada. And it didn't end well for him because I ended up matching his anger with my anger and informed him of my certifications and my experience and reminded him that he hasn't even hit a year with the police department yet. Confirmed, sir. It made me feel good at the time. It made me feel like I am more superior. I know what I'm talking about. He's brand new. He's a rookie. I put him in his place. As the night went on, obviously the gas line finally got shut off. Some homes did get evacuated. I eventually realized that my actions were wrong and I should have handled that situation a lot differently. And I apologized. I apologized to his sergeant. He was sitting in his squad car doing a report, so didn't really get a chance to apologize to him. And I was still quite angry, so I really didn't want to approach him. And I'm sure he was still quite angry too. The point being is this: I don't agree with the idea of letting people walk all over you. I don't agree with letting people flex on you or act like they are better than you based off of your profession, based off of your race, your religion. I don't agree with that. I think you should stand up for yourself and protect yourself. And I think if you see somebody else being treated as such, you should stand up for them and protect them as well. I think you need to take a few steps back and assess the situation. Is this a life or death situation that if I don't step in now, match anger for anger, and take care of the situation, is it going to get worse? Is this just basically a heated argument involving egos? 90% of the time, it's a heated argument involving egos, especially in our field. And when you run into that situation, you have to be tactical about it. We hear people talk about this all the time. Listen to Jocko Willink. Listen to, I mean, even Andy Frisella, founder of First Form, talks about it a few times. There's several people out there that talk about having these kinds of conversations, quote unquote, tough conversations. A whole other conversation for a different day. But you have to be tactful about it. You can't just go in. You shouldn't just go in and start acting like Billy Badass. You need to be the bigger person. Show that you're the bigger person. As somebody who worked in EMS, we all want people to recognize EMS as a profession, right? Like, it's one of the newest professions in healthcare. It's one of the newest professions in public safety. And yet we all feel like we're not recognized as a profession. Crappy pay, terrible benefits, no time off, and yet we get ran into the ground with call after call after call. So how do we fix that problem? Well, based off of some of the comments I've seen, we fixed it by flexing our muscles and showing people that we're really badass and that we're better than they are. And that's not the right way. You want people to recognize you as a professional? Act like a professional. It's pretty simple. You need to separate yourself from the other people that can't seem to figure out how to act professionally. This one individual commented, and he owns like a safety company or something, commented, it was basically saying the same thing as the last comment I made. And I gave an example to him or her, I don't know, of the safety field because I work in the safety field. If I see somebody committing a safety violation or is just doing something unsafe, and I go up and start screaming and hollering at them, is that really going to teach them anything? Is that going to teach any of the people around them that are listening to me anything? Well, yeah, it's going to teach them that they can't trust me. It's going to teach them that they can't approach me with things because I'll get angry. It's going to teach them that every little thing they do, I'm going to nitpick on. You have to be the type of person willing to have a conversation with somebody and show them not only what they're doing is unsafe, but explain to them why it's unsafe. It's no different in public safety. If somebody's doing something wrong, you have to be, you have to have a conversation with them, not just start screaming and hollering at them and treat them like garbage. I think EMS still has a long way to go. I think the field of EMS still has a lot of growing to do. There's still a lot of senior medics out there, senior EMTs out there, but there's not many. And it seems like the amount of people that are getting into the field are getting younger and younger every day. And that's okay. As long as we're still bringing people into the field, that's really what matters. But if you're one of those people that is young, I'm talking early 20s, going into the field of EMS or going into the field of public safety in general, police, fire, your ego is going to grow very quickly. It's normal. It comes with the job. You have to learn how to control your ego. If you let your ego control you, you will live a very short career. And this is coming from somebody who could not control their ego. I had that problem as well. That problem wasn't just because of me. It was also because of the type of people that I hung around with. I hung around with a lot of people that had large egos and they weren't afraid to show it. But when your ego gets rather large within your first couple years, it grows too quickly and then you don't learn how to control it. So you have to learn how to control it. You have to understand that when you get to the point where you think you know everything about your job, it's time to get out because this job is changing every single day. You're going to run into somebody, whether they are a nurse, a doctor, another paramedic, a firefighter, an EMT, or maybe they're just an emergency responder. You're going to find somebody that you can learn something from. You may not realize it at the time. You may not realize it the next day. It may take you a couple years before you realize that that interaction you had with somebody who was trying to give you some advice, they weren't trying to crush your ego. They were trying to help. The best thing you can do for yourself as a new EMT or a new paramedic or a new nurse or a new doctor is to be willing to listen to what other people have to offer when it comes to advice. I'm not saying you have to accept everybody's advice. Some people are going to give some really bad advice. I've had that happen before. At least be willing to listen. At least be willing to show that you're interested in what it is that they have to say. And do your own research. If somebody offers advice on how to handle a certain patient or how to handle a certain situation, listen to them, do your own research, and decide if that's something you're willing to work on or willing to do. That's it. You don't have to match ego for ego because I'm going to tell you, there's always somebody out there with a bigger ego. There's always somebody out there that's going to be bigger, stronger, and saltier than you are. And it doesn't do you any good. And doesn't do them any good. The only thing it's going to do is it's going to burn you out quicker. Because then as you start matching egos with one person, it's going to turn into multiple people. And then you're going to start getting burned out. because then you're going to get in a situation where you feel like nobody wants to work with you, nobody wants to talk to you, nobody cares what you have to say, nobody respects you. That's how you're going to feel. And in some cases, it might be true. So do yourself a favor if you're brand new to the field and check yourself before you start matching ego for ego. And if for whatever reason that nurse that posted that video, I don't even remember what her TikTok name was, but if for whatever reason she sees this, I want you to understand something. I'm not mad at what you did. I'm not mad at the comment that you made. I actually feel sorry for you because clearly nobody had that conversation with you about your ego. Clearly nobody has ever sat there and told you what it is that EMS does. And I mentioned that before too. We kind of have done this to ourselves as EMS professionals. We don't talk about what we do. So the general public really doesn't have any clue unless they've had a family member or they themselves have needed EMS for any particular emergency, or unless they've worked in the field before. They really have no clue. And that's on us. We don't have that conversation. We all sit here and we have somebody who will come and ask us, "Hey, how was your shift last night? How was your shift yesterday?" And we give the same response. "Oh, it was good. It was boring." Unless we trust them. But usually it's the same response. It was boring. I just drove around, drove from post to post, or transported one patient from one hospital to another, whatever. It's always the same response. We never actually tell them what it is that we did. We don't tell them that we had to intubate a 7-year-old kid after we found them face down. We don't tell them that we had to perform CPR on a 30-year-old male who is a runner, who runs often, runs marathons often, and randomly went into cardiac arrest while on trail. We don't tell them that we responded to a motor vehicle crash with 5 kids inside of a vehicle who all got ejected. We don't tell them those stories. When we don't tell them what it is that we actually did. And the reason why we don't tell them is simple. We all say the same thing. Well, I don't want them to suffer reliving the things that I have gone through. I don't want them to suffer from what it is that I'm telling them. They're not going to suffer. The person that's going to suffer is you because you have to relive what it is that you did. You have to relive something that you decided you wanted to throw away into a box and lock up and not ever have to deal with again. And that's not going to do you any good. So this works twofold. One, it helps the community understand what it is that we do every day. But two, it gives you an opportunity to actually talk about the things that are driving you nuts. So you should have those conversations. You're not going to hurt them. They may worry about you. If they're a family member or whatever, they may worry about what it is that you do for a living. You're not going to hurt them from your story of what you did on your last shift. Against what you may believe, it's not going to hurt you either. In fact, it's going to help you a lot more than you think. There's actually a lot of studies out there that are showing that you're better off having a conversation with somebody that you trust, peer to peer, getting whatever is bothering you off of your chest than you do going to see a psychiatrist or a counselor. I'm not saying anything negative against counselors. I know for a fact that I have shared this, and I know other people have shared this too, that just talking is enough to help when you're going through a bad situation or a tough situation. Just talking. Talk to somebody that you trust. Talk to somebody that understands what it is that you do. Talk to somebody who's not going to judge you, that's not going to armchair quarterback you and say, well, I would have done that differently. Just talk to somebody. And like I said, if it's somebody who's in the general public that doesn't do the job, now they're going to understand a little bit more of what it is that we do within the EMS profession. We need to have those conversations because we're not doing anybody any favors. Everybody knows what a nurse does. Everybody knows what a doctor does. Everybody knows what a firefighter does and a police officer does. Very few people know what paramedics do. And it's getting better. I think it's getting better with the help of technology and advancements in social media. I think it's getting better because people are seeing more videos of paramedics sharing their stories. They're seeing more videos of, we had some TV shows showing paramedics do on the streets. I think it's getting better, but it still has a long way to go. We all still have a long way to go. With that, I'm going to wrap things up. We're at 30 minutes. These monologue episodes, I'm going to keep them pretty short. If you get anything out of this show, this video, whatever, give us a like, give us a follow, share it with somebody that you think could benefit from it. Leave us a review. Those reviews help tremendously. I've come to find out that the more reviews that you leave on a show, it actually kind of reboots the algorithm a little bit and it sends it out to more people. So please leave some reviews. I would greatly appreciate it. For now, this is the debrief. Thanks for listening to this week's episode. Hope you all have a great week. We'll see you next weekend.